Viewers, have you noticed something strange? Almost every country around India, Myanmar, Sri Lanka, Pakistan, Bangladesh, and even Nepal has gone through sudden regime changes in recent years. And many times, it's not just the people's anger but outside powers pulling the strings. Today, let's expose who's behind these regime changes and why India is always at the center of this geopolitical storm. Part 1: Myanmar. In 2021, Myanmar's military toppled Aung San Suu Kyi's government. Who was behind it? China had strong ties with the military and wanted to keep Myanmar firmly in its Belt and Road orbit. The West condemned the coup, but secretly, chaos in Myanmar also weakened India's northeastern connectivity projects. After the regime change, propaganda started against India. Rumors spread that thousands of Indian soldiers were inside Myanmar when in reality, it was just 60 to 70 personnel, and that too only to help Myanmar's army fight insurgents. This narrative was pushed to paint India as an occupier, while China quietly increased its influence. But then came the turning point, when China ditched and pressured Min Aung Hlaing's regime. Myanmar realized who its real partner was. That's when Myanmar turned back to India, seeking support, cooperation, and even inviting PM Modi, showing that India is the true long-term partner, not China. Part 2: Sri Lanka. In 2022, angry citizens stormed the presidential palace, forcing Gotabaya Rajapaksa to flee. But the roots of the crisis go deeper. The Sri Lankan Prime Minister and leadership were heavily influenced by China, which is why Hambantota port was handed over to Beijing on a 99-year lease. This was the classic Chinese debt trap. At first, Colombo thought China would always stand by them. But when economic troubles hit, China distanced itself and even pushed aside leaders who couldn't serve Beijing's interests anymore. This is when India stepped in, sending fuel, food, and financial aid worth billions, despite Sri Lanka previously favoring China. The lesson was clear: while China uses countries as pawns, India stands as a true partner in times of crisis. Part 3: Pakistan. In 2022, Imran Khan was ousted through a no-confidence motion. He accused the US of orchestrating it after he refused to allow American bases in Pakistan and leaned toward Russia/China. But also, Pakistan's own military played the biggest role. They saw Khan as a threat to their dominance. Result: instability that weakens Pakistan, but also creates headaches for India with cross-border issues.
Part 4: Bangladesh. Sheikh Hasina's long rule was marked by pro-India policies and firm control over Islamist elements. But there's a hidden story. The US wanted strategic control over St. Martin's Island, near the Bay of Bengal, a critical location for surveillance over the Indian Ocean and China's sea lanes. Sheikh Hasina refused this demand, saying Bangladesh sovereignty was not for sale. Soon after, Western criticism of her government intensified, and opposition movements gained sudden momentum. The message was clear: if you don't agree to Washington's terms, they'll try to topple your government. In this crisis, India stood by Sheikh Hasina, helping her stabilize power and counterbalance Western pressure. Part 5: Nepal. Nepal has become the newest battleground between global powers. Both the US and China want to control Kathmandu, because Nepal sits in a strategic location between India and Tibet. Former PM KP Sharma Oli was openly seen as a Chinese puppet. Reports even suggest he was honey-trapped by Chinese agents, which made him tilt heavily towards Beijing. But the US didn't like China's dominance in Nepal. So suddenly, there were protests officially against a so-called social media ban. But the truth? That law was just a cover. The protests turned violent, with groups carrying rifles and damaging public property, clearly not organic demonstrations, but orchestrated destabilization. Now Nepal stands at a crossroads. Two names are emerging as front-runners for the Prime Minister's chair. Balkinder Shah, seen as an American puppet. Another candidate closely aligned with China. In short, Nepal's next leader may not be chosen by Nepali people, but by whether Washington or Beijing wins this tug-of-war. Part 6: Attempts in India. Even India has faced regime change attempts. The US deep state used NGOs and media houses as tools, funding protests, riots, and campaigns to destabilize the government. From the 2018 anti-Sterlite protests to the 2020 Delhi riots, to the farmer protests, the pattern was clear: outside money fueling unrest. In 2023, Soros and Omidja-backed groups pushed the Pegasus spyware expose, but it failed. Then, they targeted India's pride, the Adani Group, with attacks led by OCCRP and Hindenburg. Recently, Rahul Gandhi's claim of fake voters was amplified to make Indians feel cheated about their democracy. But it turned out to be a false claim, just another tactic to destabilize India. Yet, every attempt collapsed. Why? Because India exposed the money trail, tightened FCRA rules, and proved that its democracy is not for sale.
Conclusion. So, what's the bigger picture? Every regime change around India, from Myanmar to Sri Lanka, from Pakistan to Nepal, is not just about local protests or bad governance. It's about global powers fighting for control in South Asia. And the ultimate target? India. Because a strong and stable India means less room for foreign domination in this region. So the question we should all ask is, how long before another attempt is made inside India itself?